Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Art Side of Life. I'm Eva, and in today's episode we will talk with Andrew Price, and you might know him as a Blender guru from YouTube, where he shares a lot of different 3D tutorials using Blender. And we already did the interview with him last year, and there has been a lot of changes in his life and his career, and you can see some of his artworks here. So hopefully you will enjoy this episode. And before we get to the interview part, I would like to thank Astropad for sponsoring this video, because with Astropad you can use your iPad Pro as a wireless graphics tablet for your Mac. And I really enjoyed using Photoshop and Illustrator because I already have a lot of custom-made brushes. And some of you might have seen this tutorial which I created for the Halloween theme pumpkin, and I did a color and light study or material study, and I wanted to use a lot of different layer modes to try out what is the best opacity or effect to create this light inside of the pumpkin, and I really like to use Photoshop for that. So if you want to try for yourself, guys over at Astropad gave us 10% discount, so you can just go over to artsideoflife.com/astropad and use your promo code ARTSIDE to get the 10% discount for the studio licenses. And if you have any questions, you can let me know in comments below. And now let's just get to the interview part. So welcome everyone to the next episode of Art Side of Life, and I'm super happy to have Andrew here. Hello!
Hello everybody, I'm back. Back
awesome.
again.
Yeah, and for you who don't know, maybe so Andrew is a Blender guru, so you should check out the YouTube channel if you haven't seen it yet, which is almost impossible. So, but let's talk about, what changed from last year when we talked. It's already almost exactly a year as we talked about, just 2 day difference. Mm-hmm. But you did so many different projects meanwhile, and the family status changed as well. So maybe you can tell us a bit more about that, how all of this work-life balance is working out for you now.
Yeah, exactly. So I had a baby, 5 months old now. And everybody was telling me oh, when you have a baby, you won't have any time to, do your art. And I was like, yeah, I'll make it work. It's not going to be as bad as everybody says it is, but it really is. It really is. It's. I'll tell you why. Because it's not like the baby takes up so much time, but it's like I used to go home in the evenings and I would just do Blender, right? And I'd just doodle around, or I would try to learn ZBrush or something like that. And it's like my wife looks after the baby because that's her full-time job basically. She's like, you handle the money, I'll handle the baby. But when I'm home, she's like, oh, the baby's crying and I got to put the washing on, can you just hold her, like that? And I'll be deep into trying to figure this thing out on the thing, and I'm like, how do I get the lighting thing? And then suddenly she'll materialize next to me and tap me on the shoulder. I'm like, and it's like, can you hold the screaming baby? And I'm just pulled out of it immediately, and it just derails me. And then that could just be 3 minutes, but that getting back into it will take they even did a study. It said it can take, once you get distracted, it can take up to 20 minutes to get back into a deep state from where you were before. And then, maybe 5 minutes later, something else will happen. And it's I've realized I can't actually get anything done at home anymore. So I'm at my office now, so that's good. But when I'm at my office, I get people that work with me calling me or Skyping me or, people Skyping.
I'm sorry about that, yeah.
Yeah, what a burden, right?
Yeah, horrible. And if you are not in the office, you mentioned Polygon, and we see that. So what's up with that?
Hey, yeah, Polygon. Yeah, so that is the other thing that is taking up a big part of my time. I mean, I feel like I'm such a complainer, I don't have enough time.
You do so many things, right? Yeah, everyone wants to be with you. It's difficult. It's such a horrible life.
So Polygon was my venture that I started 2 years ago, and it's basically a texturing website because I'm a 3D artist, and I noticed whenever I wanted to make something like an architecture scene, there was only like raw colored textured images, like wood is like textured. But as any 3D artist will tell you, in order to use that in a render, you've got to calculate the bump and the reflection maps and all that stuff. So you had to use like extra software like Nald or Crazy Bump to do that. And I hated it because it was like every time you downloaded a texture, you had to do that step. And I'm like, why don't the guy who owns the texture website just provide that with the textures? So that was the idea behind Polygon. But it's now like our like Blender Guru, the YouTube channel. Like, I don't know how other YouTubers survive off the money. It's not enough, right? I think I don't know what it would be, but maybe this year I might get like $50,000 US from the YouTube channel, which would be enough. It wouldn't be enough for myself and my wife because she doesn't have a job. So it'd be like single income. Like that's barely enough to get by, I feel like.
Depends which town you live in, right? Because if you are in
Exactly.
San Francisco, you would starve. And if you are, I don't know where, then you would be like, it's not that bad.
Exactly. Yeah. I was talking with a guy in LA. We'll get to that maybe. But he's from a small town in France, and he calculated that like on his wage in LA, he works about every week 2 weeks for him. 2 hours for himself. Yeah. Meaning out of the 40-hour week, it costs him 38 hours of his work time to pay for expenses in Los Angeles. And then he pockets like 2 hours at the end of the week. Whereas in his hometown, where he was doing freelance work, he was pocketing 39 hours out of the week because of the expenses being so low. But, you know, that's one of the things with it. But anyways, yeah, so that's Polygon is taking up a lot of my time there, and I'm trying to balance YouTube on the same thing. But yeah, that's what I'm up to.
Yeah, and so when you are working in a Polygon, then is that like you schedule it always like you work on this during the day and then YouTube at night, or do you have a different schedules, or how does your like week look like, you know, when you're planning like, okay, this will bring me income to support my family, this is also for the community, this is like, so how do you prioritize and plan?
Yeah, you know, I wish I've tried it before, like a work journal whereby you go like, okay, Monday morning from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. I'm doing accountant stuff, or I don't know, something like admin. But I felt myself, it's very rigid, and I probably should do it, to be fair. I feel like I should be doing it because that is one of my weaknesses, is that I tend to go deep into something, and like if I'm going to make a tutorial, that's my focus for like 2 or 3 weeks. Okay. And then I don't answer my emails, you know.
Oh, wow, yeah.
You know, and so I should balance it. I definitely should. I'm keen to know from people in the comments, does anybody else do that? Do they have a structured timetable for their work, and does it actually work for you? Because my business coach was always pressuring me to do it, but it never worked for me. But I'm curious if it works for others.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah,
do you have
that would be actually really, as you mentioned, like good to hear what people do if they like to do the bullet points. So yeah, guys, write it in the comments if you feel like no, this doesn't work, or this like totally works. Because for me, as you asked, like I love to do bullet points. Oh my gosh, I have them just like, you know, right next to me, and just like, you know, like I did this, I didn't do this, and I'm like.
Right.
Yeah, like a crazy person. So, and then you can put like color codes, and yeah.
Right, gotcha. Yeah.
So
I've heard I mean, there's so many methods. Like you could like just have one task for the day. People say like one to do element, because like if you have more than a couple, like there's too much for your mind to sort of, I don't know. I've read so much into it, and it's like it's always a struggle. I feel like I'm just constantly putting out fires instead of being proactive, which is not where you want to be.
Like more things like to plan ahead, right? Yeah. But it's like, it depends if you like planning, right? Because if I also do like some of these things, I just did this one and it wasn't on my to-do list. Sometimes I even write it there so I have something to tick off, which is totally crazy. But yeah, and then I feel more accomplished, like, oh, I did something more.
I know. I do that sometimes. Like I've just been working on this task for ages, and then I realize it wasn't, and I finally finish it, and then I realize it wasn't on my to-do list. So I write it out on my to-do list and then check it immediately. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it works. But
yeah.
Also,
yeah.
what I wanted to ask you as well, if someone wants to start actually like YouTube channel now, and you know, like they would like to do maybe 3D or tutorials, what would you advise someone just starting out now? Do you think it's still like worth it to start YouTube? You know, because a lot of people are like, isn't it too late? You know, and all of these questions, or would you focus rather on like inventions, like okay, I will create like Polygon, you know? So what do you think? How would you start maybe now again, if you would start?
Sure. Okay. I've thought about this a lot. I definitely don't think it's too late. Okay. There are, like, if you're interested in making tutorials and you look on YouTube and you see that there's hundreds of thousands of tutorials already, don't let that discourage you, because the majority of them are not very good. I'm not saying that like mean, but and my first tutorials that I made were completely in that bucket. You get better over time. I think that if you were to be a mediocre tutorial creator, then yes, it's a saturated market, because there are also hundreds of thousands of mediocre tutorials. What you want to focus on is how to be like, what is it that the viewer wants? What are they not getting from someone else? And I've got a list of about 100 tutorials I need to make that people have been requesting for, that I honestly probably will never get to in my lifetime. There is stuff out there that people want to learn, and it's just not being hit at the moment. Like, for example, I was surprised. I was searching for like in Blender, like, is there a car tutorial? Like from start to finish, how to make a car. Yeah. And there actually isn't that many. There was like one or two. A couple of them didn't even have audio. Like, it's just like a speed thing.
Yeah, with the music or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's like, that's a huge topic. People, and that's a hot search term as well. Yeah. And that's the other thing I would say. You want to focus on the right things, the right topics, because like, and this applies not just to tutorials, but anything you do related to, I guess, when you're relying on a consumer or a viewer or anything like that. So in the topic of creating models, like for model libraries, like if you wanted to create models and sell them on TurboSquid, you know TurboSquid?
Yeah.
The
but
big,
I haven't tried, but I just heard about it. So I'm not like expert of knowing everything. So, but yeah.
Sure. But yeah, TurboSquid is a way to earn money. Like, you just make a model and then you put it on TurboSquid. The thing is that there is the amount of time that you spend on a model is not going to be equal, like across different subjects. So what I mean by that is, if you were to spend 2 weeks creating a model that was like a photorealistic power transformer, like a box that sits outside of a house, that it's a power transformer, right? If you were to make a photorealistic one with like little screws and like great texturing, and it was just like the best thing, it's still a power transformer. That's a very limited, specific market. Yeah. And it's regardless of the quality, there's only going to be a select group of people that are going to be interested in that. However, put that same 2 weeks of work into creating a character, a male or female character that is like a static, like generic, that can be used across so many things in archiviz or in background shots or as a hero character. That amount of work that you put into it is going to be multiplied by 100 compared to the transformer, or 1,000 or whatever. So you want to focus on like what is it that people want to learn? Like, so go to YouTube and see. This is what I did when I first started, and it's still equally applicable today. You go to a forum where your niche hangs out, where your community hangs out, and you see what questions people are asking. So I would literally go to the Blender forums, and I would go to the help section, and I would see what problems people have. And I would see like somebody had a question about how to use curves in Blender, right? And I go, and everybody was talking about curves, like how do you do this thing? And so I thought, so what could I do with curves? And then I guess come up with, I think one of the ones I did was a rope tutorial, like making curves to create a rope. And then that's popular. And the thing, and then you post it and people in the comments go like, oh, I was searching for this just the other day. And it's like, because I found out.
I can help you guys. Yes.
Yeah. So there's like, and the other thing is like, since the day I started, basically, I've had a competitor, CG Cookie, that made Blender tutorials. They didn't affect me at all, and I don't think I affected them at all in terms of like stealing viewers or anything like that, because everybody wants to learn different things. And if you watch one, it's not like there's so much content out there that like, oh, I'm never going to watch it all. Or like I've got to choose between this person or watching this video. It's like, there's so much room in there that I feel like worrying about saturation or a competitor or trying to get attention. Like just focus on being good and the rest will fall into place.
And also what worked for you was to be in the video, right? So it's not just, like the tools, but also you talk to the person, and when you are doing the tutorial, so they feel like they're learning from you, not just some random video on YouTube, I guess.
Yes. I didn't actually put my face. Like I started doing webcam as well, like a couple of years ago perhaps. But when I started, it was just my voice. But yeah, that was something that I tried to develop over time, because I know myself when I was in school, like I hated school. I mean, typical. Everybody hated school, right? But I specifically, like I got terrible grades. I said this in a previous interview, but like, in Queensland, Australia, when you graduate high school, you get given a score on 1 to 25. 1 being the best, 25 being the absolute worst. Okay. And I was so bad at school, I got a 19, which is, some could say it's harder to get like a score that low than it is to get like a good score. So I did terribly at school. Like every teacher said I just wasn't listening. So my approach I basically tried to apply that to my videos in that, like, how would I want to be told this information? How would I structure it? That's the other thing I find in a lot of people that make tutorials. There's a difference between teaching and then like telling. And one of the quotes that I've always remembered is, I think it was not by Mark Twain. No, who was it by? I can't remember. Woody Guthrie, yes, who said, any fool can make something sound complicated. It takes a genius to make it sound simple. And I think that's so true. Like the shorter I make my videos, the longer it takes to prepare them.
Yes.
To compress and condense information into something that can be understood clearly, that is rare. So if you want to be if you want to be a success on YouTube, if you just spend ages and like look at what the pros do, like Vsauce, CGP Prey, I think his name is. There was another guy who made the film guy who like broke down films. What's his name?
Actually, I don't know. Okay.
He made this one on like Jackie Chan and why it's like the best comedy. Like how to do action. Anyway.
So right after this, I will check it out.
I'm sure 100 people are going to write in the comments. But anyways, the way so just look through their videos and see the way that they explain. And you'll realize that the content that they're making isn't original. Like it's not like they're the first ones to write about that topic. They're the first ones to explain it clearly and in an entertaining way. That's their success. It's not like they thought of the best idea. So focus on, like, there's actually a good book I recommend, Presenting to Win. Yeah. It's designed for like public speaking, but it's the majority of it is, in fact, all of it is about structuring a presentation and the way you phrase things and how to make people understand it. So that's a good book if you want to get into tutorials seriously. I recommend that.
That one I haven't read, but there is also one about presentation. It's called Steal the Show. This is when you like in real life presenting and stuff. So that one is also quite good. Maybe you would like it.
I've got that. I think I've got that. It's about like Winston Churchill, like how he would present.
No, it's more like this actor guy. He had like his experiences, how he portrayed the character, and basically that's what you're doing when you're presenting. So he's talking about like acting versus real life presentation, how to get attention, how to, like all of this.
Right. Okay. Well, maybe I haven't read that. Steal the Show. Okay. That sounds good.
Good.
Yeah. Nice. And, do you apply some of his,
I'm trying. It's because it's nerve-wracking when I started to do the workshops and live talks, when you have like 70 people in the room, and you're like, okay, everyone is looking at me. I should be professional, and so I was reading this book before I started, and I think it helped because it makes you think like, okay, they're not there to judge you, but to learn something. So that's kind of the first step of the mindset, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. The other thing I find help, like they want you to succeed as well. They don't want you to fail and flounder. They hope that you like kill it. So like, don't worry that they're trying to bring you down. That was something that helped me. But so you do live presentations like at universities or?
Yeah. I started to do that. So the next one we are doing is in Geneva with Lois. So she will be doing like characters, and then I will be doing color and light. So this will be in September, if I correctly remember the date.
Wow, that is cool. I reckon that's gonna be a pretty popular presentation, right?
So hopefully, and it's like limited seating. So I think it's going to be like a smaller group of people. So like 20, 30. So it's more like a workshop type of thing. Because the last one we did together was in Hamburg. And that one was bigger, so yeah. So
is Geneva or Zurich bigger in terms of artists?
I think it's Geneva because it's more closer to French part, and in France you have a lot of artists, and in Germany I think it's mostly Berlin with like condensation of artists, and Zurich is German speaking, and it's not so much art. At least, like there is like galleries, but not so many like gaming studios or something like that. So
Right. Interesting. I asked because I'm actually I'm putting together an Excel spreadsheet, finding where all the artists of the world are.
Oh, cool. And, so what did you find so far?
Well, actually, I was thinking of moving to Los Angeles because that is where all the artists are, or so I thought.
Or are they?
Or are they? Yeah, so what I did was I went on ArtStation and I searched for the locations, like did a search based on country and city, and then I just like wrote down the amount of artists, and then I filtered that by people who use ZBrush or Blender or things like that to try to figure out where the 3D artists are, and then I also discovered where the studios are using some maps and things, and surprisingly, it's not LA, it's London.
Yeah.
London actually there's like 2,500 raw artists in LA, but then London has over 3,046 or something. And then, and a lot of more like double the amount of VFX studios in London than Hollywood. Isn't that crazy?
That's interesting. Yeah. But maybe because everything for Europe is kind of in that area. I don't know, because what I thought was like, if I think about like art and Europe, I would think as well London, Berlin, and I think that's it, what I would think.
What about Paris? Because Paris is huge as well. It's got more than LA as well, like 2,600. Crazy.
That's true. But because I don't speak French that well, right? So it's really difficult. I feel like in Berlin it's still okay, even though it's German, but a lot of people speak English. And in Paris I feel like it's less. But maybe now people in comments would be like, that's not true. That's like, but that was just my experience, So, but France has a lot of artists. But anyway, so hopefully
and
you will
Montreal
share
as well. Another French city. That's huge. Yeah,
and Vancouver animation studios. But if you publish this, I'm sure a lot of people would be like, this is so interesting. So I'm looking forward to see that video. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I'll publish it. I might do a video on it.
Oh,
yeah.
nice. And before we then say goodbye, maybe you can kind of do some like last advice. What would you kind of advise yourself, like some new stuff, what you learned and, like, oh, this is so new. I'm like, now, I know everything.
Yeah, sure. So three things. We didn't actually mention it on this, but yeah, so I went to LA during this last year. And I shot an interview series sponsored by the Australian government, actually. They paid me money to go over to LA to film anything I wanted. And so I filmed these artists and I did these long form interviews that you can watch on my channel if you're interested. But basically a whole bunch of artists that work at like Blizzard, Riot Games, Blur Studios, like top dudes who know their stuff. And yeah, so there's 6 episodes so far, but like the key takeaways that I think stuck out to me were, one, fundamentals are absolutely key, like the art fundamentals, and studying and reading books. Like these dudes, they never stop reading. And if you ask them, like, have you got any books you recommend, or like, where did you learn about the fundamentals? They're like, oh, I got to put together a blog post with like the 100 books that they just never stop reading and learning. And so you definitely got to get into that. And then the second thing is exposure to the industry. Like if you talk to any of these people and you like compliment their work, like, oh man, I love that image you did for this thing. And they're like, oh, nah, you should meet some of the people that I work with. And they're like, they all go like, I'm nothing compared to the people at the studio that I'm at. And I think that it's like constant exposure to people that are better than you just naturally elevates you, because now your taste is so much higher. Whereas if you stay at like a, amateur, or you feel comfortable, you never feel the pressure to improve as much as you do as when you're with really talented people. And then finally, the third thing was, this was like a learning one for me, but my previous advice for people was don't bother going to art school or design school, because I think they're a ripoff and most of them are just horrible. They're terrible. You shouldn't go to them. But I discovered that actually some of these people I spoke with, they did go to school, and a lot of them actually did learn a lot from it. So it depends entirely on the school, because there was also somebody I spoke to who said they went to school and it was a complete ripoff. So it definitely depends. And I think there's a website, The Rookies. They actually do a school ranking system for the 3D industry, and it's for like games or VFX, and they actually rank them according to a score thing.
Do they do also 2D, or it's only for 3D schools?
I think they do. Yeah, concept, I think, is one of the categories. So The Rookies. Just type in The Rookies school ranking, whatever. It's a big thing. I think now Autodesk sponsors it, which might be a little bit, what are they interested in? Yeah. But anyway, so those would be my 3 things, like art fundamentals, expose yourself to better people, and then school may not be as bad as I thought.
Depending which one, right? But as you mentioned, the art fundamentals, I mean, like any other profession, you have to learn, because otherwise, like, where would you be? So you just don't like fall down like, I know everything now. And
right. Yeah, exactly.
And also
did you go to school?
I did two schools actually. So
Did you really?
Yeah. I studied marketing and management, and then I studied multimedia design in Denmark.
Yeah.
So anyway, so good to explore different school systems, and as you mentioned, just like explore the world and spend time with people who inspire you in a good way, so you are motivated to do stuff, and like, everything is possible.
Yeah. Yeah, hang out with people like Loish, like what you're doing,
or you, or everyone around online. It's like, if you don't have a chance to talk with them, then just watch their videos, right? Because that helps too.
Right.
So,
go to ArtStation and just watch the top art, and you'll be fine. Yeah,
definitely. And so thank you so much again for being here. It was super nice.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. And thanks everyone, guys, for watching and listening. And write in the comments, like, what are your thoughts about the organizing, and also maybe studying. What is your experience with schools?
Yes. Or, what did you think of art schools? Yeah. Was it good? Yes.
Yeah. Or where would you go to study if you do it again, right? Oh, perfect. So thanks again. And see you guys in the next video.
Bye.